Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. We got a fun one prepared today. We're going to be looking at all of our NFL matchups we have coming up for Week 11 of the NFL football season. We are over the hump. We're in the second half of the season now. The injuries are starting to pile up. Coaches are getting fired nonstop. There's a lot of changes going on, but let's get started. We are going to be looking at our predictions for all of our Week 11 matchups, trying to predict who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what the final score will be. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, drop them below and I will respond. Every week we go over every single NFL game. We also do the same thing for every college football game as well. The top 25 and the non-top 25. If you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe so you can follow along with us. So our Week 11 NFL matchups. The very first one we have our Thursday night game, which is our prime football game on Thursday night. This is going to be November 14th. We have the 7-3 Washington Commanders versus the 7-2 Philadelphia Eagles. I went back and forth on this matchup. Right now, the Eagles have a 58.4% chance to win this game. They are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. This is a tough one. These are two really good teams. These are two playoff caliber teams. Washington has taken massive steps forward this season. Philadelphia, since the second half of last season, the biggest issue for them was turnovers. They've actually been playing a pretty clean football season for probably the last 5 to 6 games. They've kept the turnovers down, and their defense has been playing exceptionally well. Obviously, Washington has the Rookie of the Year. Daniels is closing in on 2,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. And you could also add 4 rushing touchdowns to that. And Philadelphia has Hurts closing in on 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Both quarterbacks are mobile. Both can extend the play with their leg, move that pocket. For Washington, they have a top 3 offense in the NFL. They're averaging 29 points a game, throwing for 223.5, running for 153.5. They can beat you throwing the ball. They can beat you running the ball. And their defense much improved over last season, giving up 21.7 points a game. For the Eagles, they're averaging 25.7. They throw for 197.8. They run for 176.1. The number 2 rushing team in the NFL, just barely behind the Baltimore Ravens, and their defense is getting up 17.9 points a game. They have a top 8 defense right now. This is a really aggressive team. They're at home. They're on a really long winning streak right now. The Eagles are due for a loss. In my previous video, I actually had Washington just scraping this game by. You definitely see why. Daniels, Terry, but the Eagles technically have the better offense, skill position player-wise. Hurts, Barkley's 9 yards shy of 1,000 right now through their first 9 games. They have A.J. Brown, who had a massive game this past weekend. They have Smith. They've been pushing the ball vertically down the field. Look for that to continue here. Washington's defense is playing solid, but I have to go with the Eagles to pull this game out. I have them winning this one 27-24. This is a really good game, though, and I could see it going either way. Then now moving on to our Sunday matchups on Fox at 1 p.m. The 6-3 Green Bay Packers fully rested here. They'll be playing the 4-5 Chicago Bears. Things have completely fallen apart for the Bears. They're riding a 3-game losing streak right now. Everything fell off since the Hail Mary loss. They have to get things back on track. They've dropped under 500. They need to recapture the momentum, but they're firing coaches. Caleb Williams is getting nonstop sacked. They're kind of back to the way that they were playing when the year first started, with the offensive line being Swiss cheese, giving up quarterback pressures, sacks. Then they got better. Now they've reverted back to where they were. They have to get everything started at the line of scrimmage on the offense. Right now, the Packers have a 63.5% chance to win this game. 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 40.5. Looking at Green Bay, Jordan Love missed 3 to 4 games and still is closing in on 1,900 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. They have to keep the turnovers under control, but they're still averaging 25.6 points a game, throwing for 235.8, running for 154.8, and their defense, a really good defense, giving up 21.6 points a game. For the Bears, they have Caleb Williams closing in on 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. I don't think he's had a touchdown for 2 games now. Right now, they're averaging 19.4 points a game, throwing for 169.6, running for 108.1. They went from having a decent offense to a subpar offense. Everything is starting at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage. They have to hold up there or they're going to drop another one here straight, and their defense is giving up 18.6 points a game. They do have a solid defense. That's one saving grace they have is they can always rely on their defense. But at some point, the offense has to get first downs. They have to get touchdowns. They can't settle for field goals every single game. Jordan Love closing in on 1,900 yards. Jacobs fully healthy here, closing in on 800 yards. They have Reed. For the Bears, Williams, Swift, Odunze, Moore, Allen. They have a good wide receiver core. No one's getting the ball. Caleb Williams doesn't even have time, and he does hold the ball a little too long. The Packers should take this one. I have them winning it 24-16. And then on Fox at 1 p.m., we have the 4-5 LA Rams. They lost that one to the Dolphins. We did have the Dolphins upsetting them. They'll be playing the 3-7 New England Patriots. Right now, the Rams are 5-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5, and the Rams have a 63.5% chance to win this game. The Rams, when they're fully healthy, are a very dangerous team. They're much better than their 4-5 record. A lot of those losses were with a banged-up Rams team. When they're fully healthy, Stafford, Williams, Atwell, Cooper Kupp, Nakua, multiple weapons, multiple ways that Stafford can spread it out, but Stafford has to play a clean game, and he has the playmakers that he can push the ball vertically to. For the Patriots, they've actually played pretty solid the last 2 weeks. Their defense has been playing at a higher level. Drake May's been keeping those turnovers down as a rookie, playing exceptionally well the last few games, cutting down on the errant passes. Stafford's closing in on 2,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 picks. May's closing in on 1,000 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. The Rams average 20.6. They throw for 234.6. They're running for 94.1. They got to get the run game up. The run game's going to open up that play action for you, and their defense is giving up 24.1. This is not the Rams' defense they had 3 years ago. For the Patriots, they're averaging 16 points a game, throwing for 156.8, running for 114.3. That defense is giving up 22 points a game. Where they've been playing better on the defensive side is on that defensive line. They've been getting pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. Can they continue to do that versus the Rams? This is a potential upset game here if the Patriots continue to play the way they've been playing the last 2 weeks. But Stafford has the weapons. He's the veteran quarterback. I have the Rams winning this one in a closer one, 23-17. And then at 1 p.m. on Fox, the 2-7 Cleveland Browns versus the 3-7 New Orleans Saints. The Browns, obviously, Deshaun Watson went down. He's out for the season. That's actually probably a good thing for them because Jameis Winston, even though he throws a lot of picks, he's a better option right now than Deshaun Watson because at least he can push the ball down the field. For the Saints, they started out the year 2-0, went on a 7 games, absolutely horrible losing streak. They finally ended that this past weekend, got that win, but a lot of things went their favor, but never apologize for a win. Right now, the Browns have a 50% chance to win this game, but the Saints are 1-point favorites here, and the over-under is 43.5. This is going to be a close game. Both of these teams are reeling. One team trying to get their 3rd win, one team trying to get their 4th win. Saints do not have a bad roster by any means, but they've been banged up, and they haven't been able to get everyone on the same page at the same time. And they're also firing coaches right now. For the Browns, they have a lot of changes going on. Can Jameis Winston play a clean game here? Winston's 50-50. He could throw 3-4 touchdowns. He could throw 3-4 picks. He could go back and forth game to game. You never know what you're going to get, but at least you have the opportunity there of being able to move the ball. Right now, for the Browns, Winston's closing in on 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. Carr closing in on 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. The Browns are averaging 16.4 per game, throwing for 183.4, running for 91, and that defense is giving up 23.7 points a game. They have a top 10 defense talent-wise, but statistically they've fallen short, but that's mainly because they've been on the field the whole game. For the Saints, they're averaging 22.7. Throwing for 212.4, running for 122.4. That defense is giving up 24.6 points a game. With the Browns, Ford, Judy, Winston has to play a clean game here. The Saints can win the close game. They have Kamara. Olave, his health is kind of up for grabs right now, but Kamara's having a great season so far. He'd be even better if Carr was having a better season throwing the ball. But I'm going to go with the upset here. I have the Browns pulling this one out, winning this one in a close one. Jameis Winston plays a semi-clean game. They win it 20-17. And then at 1 p.m. on CBS, the 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Let's be honest, let's call it what it is. The Raiders aren't really good at anything specifically. They'll be playing the 3-6 Miami Dolphins, much better than the 3-6 record. Don't forget, they didn't have Tua for 3 to 4 games. They dropped those games. With Tua back, they finally got their first win Monday Night Football here versus the Rams, and we did pick the Dolphins to upset the Rams. Right now, the Dolphins have a 62.4% chance to win this game. They have to chip their way off game by game, try to get their way back to 500. There's a lot of room in their division behind the Buffalo Bills, but they have to go on a winning streak here. They have to take these easy wins. They're 7.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 44.5. Looking at the Dolphins, obviously, when they have Tua, this is a extremely talented offensive roster, one of the best in the nation. Raiders, they're going to be rolling with Minshew. Minshew, just like Winston, throws a lot of picks, but at least he has the ceiling of he can push the ball. He can at least get you some touchdowns. He's closing in on 1,600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 picks. Tua closing in on 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. Tua, stop with the crazy physical stuff. Don't try to tackle anyone. You're going to give yourself your 30th concussion. Think smart, man. Right now, the Raiders, they're averaging 18.7, throwing for 203.3, running for 76.9. One of the worst rushing teams in the NFL. They definitely have to get that number up. They have a lot of work to do at multiple positions in the offseason. Their defense also one of the worst, giving up 27.9, 200 passing, 130 rushing. For the Dolphins, they're averaging 16.3. That's a low number, but it's kind of construed because there's all those games where they didn't have Tua. They're throwing for 188.8. Running for 126.4. Their defense giving up 22.4 points a game. With the Raiders, they have Madison. They have Brock Bowers, who is a legitimate number 1 target. And for the Dolphins, Achin, Mostert, Hill, Waddle, Berrios, Beckham. Multiple weapons. Look for the Dolphins to get back-to-back wins. They take this one 28-20. And then on CBS at 1 p.m., the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars back-to-back, 3 straight weeks they've had the game in the fourth quarter, and a fumble or a turnover cost them the game in the very end. They don't play well second half. They always give up the leads. They'll be playing the 8-1 Detroit Lions, who are, let's be honest, they're the best team in the NFL right now at Week 11. Right now, the Lions, heavy favorites, 81.3% chance to win this game. 13-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. That is a massive spread for an NFL game. The Jags are probably going to be without Trevor Lawrence this game. He could be out for the rest of the season. Mac Jones filled in this past weekend. He didn't play bad, but they weren't able to punch the ball in when they had the chance. They don't have a bad team. They don't have a bad young wide receiver core, but the Lions, who's rolling better than the Lions right now? On both sides of the ball. Right now, they are dominating on offense. They're dominating on defense. A top 5 talented roster, top 10 offense, top 10 defense. Right now, the Jags are going to be going with Mac Jones and company, and the Lions. Goff, awful game this past weekend, but when it mattered most second half, he had 5 picks. He turned things around. They still won the game. He's closing on 2,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 picks. The Jags are averaging 20.2 every game. Throwing for 195.2, running for 107.7, but that defense gives up 26.4 points a game. The biggest issue for them is their secondary, giving up 261.2 yards per game. There's going to be a lot of guys wide open down there. The Lions are going to make the Jags pay, especially by going vertical, dropping some bombs on them. Right now, Detroit, they're averaging 31.6, the number 1 offense in the NFL. They're throwing for 219.6, running for 147.3. Their defense only giving up 19 points a game. Like I said, top 10 on offense and defense. The Jags have Bigsby. They have Thomas Jr. They have Kirk, a good young wide receiver core, but someone has to consistently get those guys the ball. Detroit, Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown. Too many weapons. They can beat you throwing, running. They can beat you with their defense. Lions should be able to roll here. They win this one 33-17. And then on 1 p.m. on CBS, the 7-2 Vikings with that really close, awful win versus the Jags. But hey, they played bad and they were still able to find a way to win. They'll be playing the 2-7 Tennessee Titans. Right now, the Vikings have a 65.5% chance to win this game. The Titans can actually make this a pretty competitive game. They haven't played the worst football the last few weeks, but they still have quarterback issues. Levis, Rudolph, really doesn't matter. They're having issues punching the ball in and turnovers on their side of the field. Right now, the Vikings have a 65.5% chance to win this game. They are 6-point favorites. The over-under is 39.5. Vegas has this being a low-scoring game for Sam Darnold. He's closing in on 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, 10 picks. A lot of turnovers the last few games. Started out the season really hot. Things have kind of come back down to earth, but still having a solid season so far. And for the Titans, their leading passer, Levis, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 picks. They also have a lot of turnover issues. For the Vikings, they're averaging 24.6, throwing for 223.3, running for 120.2. Their defense, a really good defense, giving up 17.4 points a game, but only 79 yards on the ground. They're going to take the run game away from the Titans, force them to have to beat them passing the ball. Titans already have a lot of interceptions. They turn the ball over a lot when they have the pass. So obviously, all of that leans in the Vikings' favor. Tennessee, they're averaging 17.4, throwing for 169.2, running for 126.3. Their defense giving up 26.7 points a game. A pretty bad defense. For the Vikings, you have Jones, you have Jefferson, a top 3 wide receiver, if not the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. And for Tennessee, Pollard having a solid season. They have Ridley. The Vikings should be able to kind of get that offense going. It was lacking this past weekend, but they should get things back on track here. But it's going to be somewhat close. They're going to win it 24-17. In our next matchup at 1 p.m. on CBS, this is a tough one. This is a playoff level game. 7-3 Baltimore Ravens. Their offense is rolling currently versus 7-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, the Ravens have a 60.9% chance to win this game. 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48.5. Pittsburgh, tough place to play. The Steelers always play the Baltimore Ravens very good. This is a Mike Tomlin team. They have Mike Tomlin's personality. They play special teams. They run the ball. They play elite playoff caliber defense nonstop. TJ Watt. The biggest issue is Lamar Jackson's having an MVP caliber season this season. Lighting it up, throwing, running the ball. Can you bottle him up? Keep him in the pocket. Force him to have to keep throwing the ball. Take away the run game. Force him to have to beat you vertically down the field. But that's easier said than done. The Ravens are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL. They were the number 1 rushing team last season. They added Derrick Henry to that. They got even better. Right now, they're averaging 31.8 elite offense, throwing for 257.6, running for 182.6 yards per game. The most balanced team in the NFL. They are giving up 25.3 points a game. So their weakness is their defense, but specifically their secondary. They have the worst secondary statistically in the NFL, giving up 294.9 yards per game. You can throw all over the Ravens, but man, you cannot run on them. The best rush defense, giving up 73 yards per game on the ground. Pittsburgh, they're averaging 23.9. They are throwing for 188. They're running for 138.3, but elite defense, giving up 16.2 points a game, only 87.1 on the ground. This is strength on strength. One of the best rush defenses versus the best running team in the NFL. Lamar Jackson closing in on 2,700 yards, 24 touchdowns, 2 picks. He also has 4 rushing touchdowns. And for the Steelers, Russell Wilson having a solid season since he came back, closing in on 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. Baltimore is loaded. Lamar Jackson, Henry closing in on 1,200 yards. Flowers, Andrews, Likely, Pitt, they have Harris. Pickens having a good season right now. Russell Wilson loves feeding the ball to Pickens. This is Mike Tomlin. They're going to run the ball. They're going to bring that defense here. I could see the Steelers winning this game. Would not be surprised at all. I don't want to go anywhere near this game. It's a 50-50 to me. But I'm going to go with the Ravens having the ball late fourth quarter, going down the field. They win this one 27-24. Then at 1 p.m. on CBS, the 4-6 Colts, who, they've been moving the ball, but they're also having issues once they get down to the red zone, punching that ball in, and it's mainly due to having problems running the ball in the red zone. They'll be playing the 3-7 New York Jets. The Jets should be a lot better than 3-7 right now. They have a lot of one-possession losses. Right now, the Jets, though, the favorite here. 57.3% chance to win this game, 4-point favorites. The over-under is 43.5 for the Colts. They benched Richardson. They went with Flacco. To me, Flacco at least opens up the offense because he can push that ball down the field, which should theoretically open up some running routes for Jonathan Taylor, taking some pressure off of Flacco. But they got to get everything on the same page. They're averaging 20.8 points a game. Flacco closing on 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. They're throwing for 198.3. They're running for 121.3. Their defense is giving up 22.3 points a game for the Jets. Rodgers has been playing better lately, but there's a lot of drop passes here. But they added Devontae Adams, if he's healthy. They added him to the wide receiver core. He's a legit wide receiver, experienced veteran who's played with Rodgers before. Someone he can find on third and longs, feed him the ball, and he trusts that he'll be able to get that first down. Right now, the Jets are averaging 17.7, throwing for 211.7, but they're only running for 86.8 yards per game. That is one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL, but thankfully, the Colts give up about 150 on the ground. So maybe Breece Hall will be able to find some open lanes, and their defense giving up 21.4. Colts, Flacco, Taylor, he can run it, he can catch it out the backfield. They have Pierce, but Pierce, he had a couple drops this past weekend. You got to pull those balls in for the Jets. Breece Hall, Wilson, Lazard, Adams, if he's healthy. I hate going with the Jets. The Jets have been burning a lot of people this season. They always let you down. When you don't think they'll win, they'll win. The games they're supposed to win, they drop every single one of them. But I'm going to go with the Jets winning this one. I could be wrong here, but I have the Jets winning at 24-20. And then on Fox at 4:05 p.m., the 6-4 Atlanta Falcons, coming off of an awful performance this past weekend. They'll be playing the 5-5 Denver Broncos. Never sleep on Denver. They have an elite playoff caliber defense. As long as you have a top 10 defense, that can keep any game one possession within striking distance. Right now, the Falcons are the favorite. 58.1% chance to win this game, but it's the Denver Broncos at home who are 2-point Vegas favorites. The over and here is 43.5. Looking at the Falcons, this is a team with one of the best offensive rosters. Kirk Cousins has gotten very comfortable in this scheme. They've been throwing a lot. They've been running. Kirk Cousins is a gunslinger. He has weapons here. He can feed the ball to them. Cousins closing on 2,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, 8 picks. Bo Nix, really bad first 2 games of the season. But Sean Payton has been playing to his strength. Short, dink and dunk passes, move the pocket, roll the pocket out, give him the option to dump it off or potentially scramble for that first down. He's closing in on 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. The Falcons are averaging 23.8, one of the best passing teams in the nation, throwing for 250.4, running for 124.7. Their defense giving up 23.6. For Denver, they're averaging 19.7. They're throwing for 186.6, running for 117.1. That defense only gives up 17.7 points a game. That's a really good defense. Can they control the Falcons defense, the Falcons offense? Falcons offense did not look good this past weekend, but you could justify and say, since they look so bad this past weekend, they're due to have an offensive explosion this game. You could reason it that way. That would definitely make sense, but it's hard to recuperate versus this elite Denver Broncos defense. But the Falcons are loaded. Robinson, Algiers, Mooney, Pitts, multiple weapons, multiple targets they can find running the ball, throwing the ball. They're going to test the Denver defense, but the Denver defense is really good, and they have Williams, Sutton. But I'm going to go with the Falcons getting the upset, getting that offense back on track here. Kirk Cousins making the passes he needs to make second half to win the game. They win this one 24-20. This next one's a really tough game because I could actually see the upset strongly happening here at 4:05 p.m. on Fox. The 4-5 Seattle Seahawks versus the 5-4 San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers have a 69.1% chance to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 50.5. Seattle can throw the ball, the number one passing team in the NFL. When their offense is on, they can outscore these good teams. When it's not on, they have a lot of turnovers. Right now, Seattle, Geno Smith closing in on 2,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 picks, practically 50-50 on the touchdown to pick ratio. That's not good enough, especially for a San Francisco roster. To me, when they're healthy, they have the best top-to-bottom roster in the NFL. But the main thing is when they're healthy. They have not been healthy the whole season. They finally got McCaffrey back this past weekend. Do not underestimate that. He didn't have the best game, but he's rusty. He's going to be getting better every single game. He is a legit top 5, top 3, some might say the top weapon in the NFL. Brock Purdy especially plays a lot better when he has McCaffrey. Right now, Brock Purdy closing in on 2,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. Seattle averages 23.3. They throw for 268.2. They run for 91.2. They got to get that number up, and their defense giving up 24.6. For San Francisco, they're averaging 25.9, throwing for 262.8. running for 149.7. A very balanced team. Their defense giving up 22.4 points a game. This team wants to get back to the playoffs, want to get back to the Super Bowl. Seattle has Walker III, DK Metcalf. San Francisco is loaded. Mason, McCaffrey, probably the best 1-2 running back punch in the country. Kittle, Debo, Jennings had a big game this past weekend. I have San Francisco continuing to roll, stay above 500 here. They win this one 27-20. This is another game I went back and forth on. We know the Chiefs own the Bills, especially in the playoffs at 4:25 p.m. on CBS. The undefeated defending champs, 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs versus the 8-2 Buffalo Bills, who are rolling right now. The Bills have a 53.1% chance. They're the favorites, 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. Kansas City's offense is not having a very good year. Probably the worst season since Mahomes has been there. But it really doesn't matter. They're undefeated. They keep finding ways to win. They're blocking field goals. They're getting picks when it matters. Patrick Mahomes closing in on 2,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 picks. We know this is a Super Bowl team. When they need to win, they're going to find a way to win. Josh Allen closing in on 2,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 picks, having a very conservative season. He's a gunslinger. He's taking what the defense gives him this season. The Chiefs are averaging 24.3. Throwing for 231.6, running for 115.1. That defense only giving up 17.9 points a game. The reason they're still scoring points, the defense gets turnovers, gives them the short field, they can punch it in, and they only give up 83 rushing yards. The Bills, they're averaging 29 points a game, a top 5 offense. They're throwing for 222.5, running for 120.7. Their defense is also just as good, giving up 19.3 points a game. This is going to be an interesting team. This is a playoff matchup. Chiefs have been banged up, but Hunt, Kelsey, Worthy, Mahomes, Rice, Pacheco when they're fully healthy. And on the other side, the Bills, Cook, Shakir, Coleman, Cooper when he's back on the field fully healthy gives them that veteran. This game is going to go either way. If the Chiefs win, obviously it would not surprise me. But I have Buffalo finally getting one on the Chiefs, pulling this one out 27-23. But this is a 50-50 game here. This next one at 8:20 p.m., our final Sunday game, second to last game on NBC, the 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals. They have to continue to win, chip away at these games one by one, slowly work your way back to 500. They'll be playing the 6-3 LA Chargers. The Chargers have a 52.1% chance to win this game. This is going to be a quarterback duel. This is Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. And Herbert's the favorite here. 1.5-point favorite. Practically a pick 'em. The over is 46.5. Cincinnati is a straight-up offensively focused team. They don't like to play defense much at all. Burrow having a great season, closing in on 2,700 yards, 24 touchdowns, 4 picks. Herbert did not have to do much the first 5 games, but the last couple of games, he showed you he can sling the ball, having great performances, closing in on 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, only 1 pick. This is a hardball team. Run the ball, play defense. When you need to score, that's when Justin Herbert takes the game over. The Bengals are averaging 27 points a game, throwing for 254.8, running for 89.7. That's pretty low. They got to bump that up, but they do give up 26.2 points a game. They give up just as many as they score. Chargers average 20.7, throw for 196.4, run for 117.9, but that defense, number 1 in the NFL, giving up 13.1 points a game. They're going to make life difficult for the Bengals. This is strength on strength. Top 5 offense versus the number 1 defense. Which one is going to prevail? Bengals might get T. Higgins back. Maybe he's kind of questionable. They have Brown. They have Burrow. They have Chase, an elite wide receiver core, especially if you add in Higgins. And for the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins. They have McConkey. Herbert having a great season, but that defense is going to keep them in any game. They're the favorites, but I have the Bengals seizing the day, getting the upset win here, 24-21. And now for our final game, the Monday night game on ESPN at 8:15. The 6-4 Houston Texans coming off that loss. They should have won the game, but a very bad second half performance versus the 3-6 Dallas Cowboys. There's not much to say about Dallas here. Obviously, Dak's gone. This team is just kind of spiraling down the drain. They got to get some type of life here. But right now, the Texans 71.1% chance to win this game. This is the battle for Texas. Texans 7.5-point favorites. The over is 42.5. We were robbed here. It should have been Stroud versus Dak Prescott. Would have been a really fun game looking at a preseason. But as of right now, not so much. Right now, the Texans, Stroud closing on 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks. They might get Nico back this weekend. That would be a massive upgrade for them. They do lose Diggs for the season. They're averaging 22.4, throwing for 218, running for 119, giving up 22.6. The Cowboys used to be good on their offensive line, running the game and defense. They're bad on all of them right now. They're only averaging 19.7 points a game, throwing for 231. They only run for 83.7, a massive downgrade at the running position for the Cowboys. That's where the problems start, is on the line. The line's not good, the running game's not good, and their defense has completely disappeared. They give up 28.8 points a game, the second worst defense in the NFL. That is crazy when you're thinking about the Cowboys. For the Texans, Stroud, Mixon, potentially Collins coming back, a top 3 wide receiver. For Dallas, Daldo, who's only going to give you about 30, 40 rushing yards max. CeeDee Lamb, but Rush, there's no one to push him the ball. Texans should win this easily. They win it 27-17. So that's our picks and predictions for all of our Week 11 NFL matchups. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments on these games or anything else, drop them below and I will respond back. Thank you.